What's up, everyone? It's your boy Terry, speaking from the garage shop again. Gonna offer you some more big bang for the buck product and info. Yeah, today's gonna be a good one. Well, now you remember when I said we're gonna do a 4-link suspension in the rear of my '69 Camaro? Guess what? We're gonna do it, but we're not only gonna do the 4-link suspension, we're gonna upgrade the front suspension with high performance parts and a couple of other surprises that you want to stay tuned for. But we're not talking about that today. No, what we're talking about today is correcting the stance on the Trailblazer SS. Even though it looks good, we want to make it look just a little bit better. So let's go over to where I usually sit and talk about parts and stuff like that. Let's have a little discussion, all right? Let's go. Now, before we even get started, make sure you hit the subscribe because there's a lot of stuff coming down. I can't mention that this time, but a lot of stuff is coming down. I want you guys to be a part of it because it only be fair because you were with me when this thing first started. So take the ride with me. And while you're at it, it's that bell that gets me. You gotta kind of hit it. You gotta punch that bell. That way you'll get notified every time Cover Man 66 puts a video out. And like I said, you want to be a part of it, all right? Thank you, appreciate you. Now, I love the way the Trailblazer SS project is coming along. It looks really good. Only one thing, just one thing that gets me, that kind of, it just a little thorn in a little thorn, and that is the height of the rear. Now, if you guys remember the video that I did as far as replacing the airbag to a coil spring suspension, now the rear coil conversion kit that I got was from my boy Tony. Right? Now he sells 2 kits where you can get a 31.5 or either a 30.5. Now I went with the 31.5. Why? Because this is an everyday truck. I haul stuff in it, I tow stuff in it. You know, I get the family, hang out with my boys. We all cruise on down to the crab shanty. I love the crab shanty. Those crab cakes are phenomenal. So I really don't need the car too low. Now a 30.5 kit, it looks good, but it might be just a little too low for me. So what I'm trying to do is get somewhere in between. But there's a problem. Now some of you guys remember back in the day, the way to lower your car, you had a couple of options. Now this is a front coil spring from off of like a Chevelle, Nova, Camaro, something like that. Now back in the day, before coilovers, the only way you can lower the front of your car would be either to change the spring to a lower spring, or you used to do old school, like how I've done several times, you would cut a coil. Now, if you see, you could do that because it doesn't have a tapered end. So what we used to do is if you cut it right in half, you see where it ends? All right, now if you cut it like right here, roughly gives you about a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of a drop. Now, if you cut a whole coil, which would mean pretty much, you see where it ends right here? Just go down and just slice it right here. So now you take this coil out, and that would roughly give you about 3/4 of an inch to an inch drop. Now here's a rear coil spring. Now this is off of, I don't know what this came off of, but most coil springs in your rear suspension look similar to this. It has a tapered end. You see that? It's smaller. Now that taper is to hold the spring in place. You have a taper on the top and you have a taper on the bottom where the coil spring right here fits over that taper. So when the suspension travels, it won't pop out. Now the only real way to replace a tapered coil spring is to replace it for a lower spring, which is tapered. See, my thing is, I want to lower my truck maybe 1/8 to a 1/4 inch. And I know what you're saying, that doesn't seem like much, but aesthetically, it will look a little bit better, especially when I install a coilover suspension in the front. So that will give me adjustability. But in the rear, like I said, I just want it just drop maybe an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take the coil spring out of the Trailblazer SS and I'm gonna just trim. You see how that's the contact piece where it's, you see, it doesn't sit 100%. So the contact patch of the perch is till about right here. So I'm just gonna trim it just a little bit on the top and on the bottom, and that should lower the truck just enough where I don't have to worry about changing the shocks. Now that 30.5 to 31.5, that's just the ballpark that Tony gives you because it's a significant drop from stock. And you also gotta remember, all vehicles are different. So depending on how much air you have in the tire, if you got gas in the tank, or if you got a spare tire back there, all these things weigh in the variables of making that 30 to 31, 30.5 to 31.5 measurements. So if you go and you install the kit and you're a little over, a little under, just keep that in mind. Because my truck, I just measured it, I'm like 31 3/4 instead of 31 1/2. Again, depending on what tire size you're using and all the other variables, it may differ. So I guess the first thing I gotta do is get the coil springs out. All right, we're under the mighty Trailblazer. All right, now what we gotta do is we gotta remove that spring. We gotta remove both of them. Okay, now the easy way to do it is just to remove the shock. You wanna make sure that the truck is on jacks, you see that? And that the rear pumpkin is somewhat braced up, because as soon as you remove these two bolts, one on this side for the shock, I got the other side already done. You can see that. You'll be able to drop the pumpkin and the spring will pop right out. Loose. Thank goodness for anti-seize. All right, then I'm gonna punch this out. Screw this out like that. It'll come out. All right. So now all I gotta do is drop the rear a little bit, which I just did, and I'm able to get the spring right on out. So now I got the passenger side spring, and you probably can see, but I labeled it passenger side, and I want this to land in the same position on the perch, so there's no confusion, because if you turn it this way, it may affect the height, or, you know, so we're gonna try something new. What we're gonna do is we're gonna just trim the contact area, which is about right here. We're not gonna weaken the integrity of this spring. We're just gonna just take a little bit, just a little touch up. You know what I'm saying? Just a little touch up, just a little trim, you know, where hopefully I'll be able to achieve that 1/8 to 1/4 inch drop that I would like to have. Because we here at the Garage Shop, we like to perform independent testing where we get you answers and solutions to maybe the, you know, common problems that you may have that you see here in the Garage Shop. You know, so said that, let's get to trimming. Now remember, we're just gonna trim a little bit, just enough. As you see, what I'm doing is, you see how round the spring is? Basically what I'm doing is, I don't know if you can see this, I'm pretty much, this part right here, I'm pretty much flattening it, making it a little bit flat, where there's still meat on it. It's just a little bit flat, and that should result in lowering the back end of this truck, especially if you do upper and the lower. Now, I'm not taking away any of the integrity of this spring. That's important. You don't want to make it too thin where it possibly could collapse. So you don't want to do that. But before I install both of the springs, I'm going to have them both side by side, make sure that they're pretty much even. This looks good. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit it with some type of protection, like, you know, I don't know, maybe some rust inhibitor, which I love, and put it back in, do the other side, and see where we stand. What's up, everyone? It's about a week later since I trimmed out the coil springs in the back of the truck, and I can tell right now that it's sitting really pretty, but we're gonna definitely test it out just to make sure. I got the spare tire back in, and I got some gas in the tank, so we're gonna measure the points exactly where we measured from before and see if there's a difference. Let's do this. Let's measure it out. All right, right there, make it nice and flush, right in center of the wheel. As you can see, it's a touch. Let me just make sure it's straight. It's about 31 inches straight, or maybe just a touch under 31 inches. Now, as you can see, aesthetically, the truck looks a lot better. And we still have enough travel in the back for everyday function, is towing and shopping and all that stuff. Well, I'm telling you, I'm really happy with the results of trimming that spring, and looks good. Yeah. Check out some of this New York beauty. Yeah. Got the Hudson River over there. Kind of cool. I think it's safe to say I lost about 1/8 of an inch to somewhere in, about a 1/2 inch, because I didn't have the spare tire in when I first took the first measurements, and I have it in now. And I'm not sure how much gas I had in the tank when I took the first measurements, where now I have pretty much a full tank. And those things, they play part in the measurement, or should I say the lowering of the car. So it looks great. I love the stance, and this I would check off as a success. Now remember, you don't want to shave those springs to the point where they're paper thin. No, you don't want to do that. You want to just take a little bit off. That's it. Just that little bit, just a little touch makes a world of difference to me. All right. But I'm looking at the clock on the wall. Or should I say ceiling? It's time for me to head on off and keep on doing these videos, because I got tons of videos. I got to do the coilovers in the front. Don't forget about that. That's coming up soon. And like I said, I got a lot more surprises which are going to be coming through. So don't forget, you got to hit that subscribe, right? Hit the subscribe. And I'm not going to say it about the bell, because we all know what you got to do with the bell. You got to beat the snot out that bell. Hit that bell. That way you get notified whenever Coverman66 puts a video out. And like I said, I got tons of videos. I'm gonna be hitting you with them, and I don't want you to miss them. So until the next time I see you guys, please always be easy. Yeah, and I'll catch you guys real soon. Take care.